in this video I will be showing how I painted the axe of Witch Kinga II. As you can see on this painted model, it is painted in 3 core elements. The first one is of course the blade, which is the classical steel type of color, so grayish type of colors. Then we have a huge element of rust, which is probably the biggest focus on that axe, and then we have some non-metallic gold, old gold metal here. So I will start with the blade itself, which is I think pretty easy to do, because as you can see it's basically the one key light reflection, which takes a lot of space of the blade, and then I will be showing you how I painted the rust. Okay, so let's start with the blade. For the blade itself I'm using different colors. I'll show you here. Basically it's the coal black, so the same color that I was using for the dark elements and dark shades of the armor. Then I have the key one is basically the graphene gray, which is the steel type of color that I'm using. It's also a little bit of blue type of reflection there, so it's not a typical gray. I think it makes the color more deep and interesting. And then I'm mixing graphene gray with 2 other key paints, or one of them if you don't have them. It's a brown gray or rainy gray. So they are a little bit of brownish or kind of beige type of color. And the key light is basically built with nacre and kind of warm white color, which is in my case I really like this paint, which is linen white from Reaper. So you will see maybe later under the link some pictures and images of the paints and how they are used in which areas. But now I'll be showing you how I was painting that. So the key colors that I'm using, as I told you, it's graphene gray, and there is a mix of either brown gray or rainy gray. All paints here are from scale. In the darkest places, to build the contrast, I'm using the coal black, which is here. I will just add it here as well. So basically these are 3-4 main colors. Of course, for the light, the key spot of light, you can use any type of white that you have. I'm using not the very sharp white like you can have here, but I will be using mostly nacre, and then in a very small piece of the light I will use a little bit of this linen white. So I will make a first sketch of the miniature. So for the sketch I will use graphene gray and rainy gray. And again, the technique that I'm using for the blade, which with this long blade it's pretty easy to do, is the long and sharp lines that I'm doing, painting in one direction, in the direction of light typically, if I want to stress the light. So just to show you again how it can look like on the blade. These are the lines that I will be trying to do. So I will be painting in that direction, where here I will have the light. Okay, so that's the technique. And again, try to use the sharp brush, it will be easier for you. I have not perfect paint now, just give me 1 second. To make it sharp, I think the paint should be also somehow diluted. It shouldn't be very thick, because then the line will be short, but when it's wet enough it should stay on the brush and give you the possibility to make the line longer. So let's try. Yeah, so that's it. So that's basically what you are trying to do on the blade. Okay, so I will make a sketch of the lights of the blade first. So in the original model I see that here are kind of a key key scratches of the blade. So my concept was to make the focus here, so that's why the biggest concentration of the light of the blade will be somewhere here, and I'm trying to make it pretty long, so I want to have a focus here, so that's why I will put much more reflection and the key light on this area. So that's just the first part of the light, and then a little bit of the light I have put just at the top of the blade, so just to show that okay, there is the place where it finishes, but it's rather short and small here. And that's pretty much if it comes to the light distribution. And now I'm trying to build basically the main color composition. So the steel color that I'm using is the graphene gray, and this color will go to the main parts of the blade, which is here, and then it's here, and everything between will be the transition. And to be honest, the blade is rather long, smooth if it comes to the surface, so you can even play with wet paints, so use the wet blending technique to mix it to have a smooth transition, and it should work pretty well because it's long and it's not a difficult, I would say, surface for the painter. So the wet blending, I think, also can work here pretty well. In the darkest places I will be using coal black, and so this coal black will come somewhere here, and again it's not a typical black, it's very dark navy color, so if you compare later with the classical black like a base coat, you will see the difference. So I strongly recommend to use this type of a color, and I will try to use it a little bit of here. Okay, so that's the sketch of colors, as you can see. And now all the fun starts, because I need to make basically the transitions and the lines, so it looks like a steel. So the lines I will be trying to create in that direction. So if I'm using a lighter type of a color, like the gray one, I'm starting somewhere here and I'm pulling to the direction of the light. So I will just use the rainy gray color at the moment, and I will be doing sharp lines, and I will try to make it fast, so will help myself with the wet blending as much as possible, because it really significantly improves the painting process. Because this blade is also full of scratches which are sculpted, I'm not looking so much into this, so even in the places where there is a scratch and some line in the part where there is a light, I'm not emphasizing this, I'm just putting the paint and covering this fully, so you can a little bit hide those scratches with highlight or the key light. As I said at the beginning, I want to have this light rather long, because in this way it will also trigger the focus of the blade, because it will the eye will be caught by the light, and if it's big enough it will create a focus. Okay, now I will use a little bit of graphene gray mixed with brown gray to be applied for the midtones. So I will be not covering any more light area, I will be somewhere here, and I will be pulling the brush into the direction of the dark side, of the dark or shade part of the axe. Even if it's too long, I can then easily cover this with just the graphene gray, like here. So now I will just use graphene gray, and because the paint is still wet, I will apply somewhere in the middle. And as you can see, the transition is rather smooth because all the paints are now wet. And then I can also use now cold black, it's still wet, and again just apply at the very top of the blade. And I'm trying to do the lines, as you can see, so in some places it will be more visible, in some a little bit less. So now I have the general concept of the paint, of the color scheme. Now I just need to do this on that side and go upper in the blade. I will be using now brown gray with some of the graphene gray. I just want to make sure that the paint is diluted. So now I will be painting that part, so I'm going to the top of the blade. So I'm pulling my brush into the top direction. So I'm painting in that way. So I'm starting from the light and pulling to the top. Okay, it's still wet, so I can use a little bit more graphene gray and pull the paint even further. And then use coal black and focus on the contrast dark place. Okay. Alright, now I will be fixing that part in the other way, so I will be using brown gray and we'll go to the direction of the light, trying to leave some lines on the blade. I will just need to do like that. Now I will be using rainy gray. So at this moment I'm not using any whites. They will come at the very end, and then they will create the biggest contrast and the reflection effect. So I'm using the lines here. I will try to fix a little bit of the top here. And I will fix that part, so I will be pulling the paint in the direction of the light. Now I will use graphene gray with brown gray and we'll try to fix this element, because I see that there is not a good transition. And then I will come back again to the upper part of the blade, which is here, which I need to probably do something like that with my hands. I will be using the same color to fix a little bit here. Not just the sharp lines, which I'm trying to do. I think I need to change the brush for a moment. What is also, I think, important to do is to have a line of showing the border between the blade and the rust element, so of the main body of an axe, which is trying to build a line somewhere here, because it's close to the light, so it can be presented. Let me show you. Let me check if you see. So in this way the contrast will be even bigger, and it will be easier to see that there is a transition between the blade itself and the key part of an axe. Alright? So you can just do some kind of edge. Okay, now I'm adding a little bit of nacre, so kind of very subtle white color to the rainy gray, and I will apply this on the main light of the blade, which is here. So I will try to make sure it's pretty strong and visible. And I will be again doing lines next to each other. I hope you see it now. Okay, I will be fixing that in a minute. Okay, let me change the brush for a little bit smaller. It's easier for me in front of the camera to play with the smaller brush. Again, I'm using the same mix, so again the combination of nacre white with rainy gray from scale, and that comes from, I think, black and white set of scale. If you would like to have a full set, I think you can buy it directly and you'll have all those paints. Okay. And again, what is important about painting this axe, it would be great to have some brush strokes visible, so like those lines. So I'm trying to do some lines. It doesn't have to be perfect, because the axe itself also looks as an old one, so even if it looks a little bit like dirty type of non-metal, I think it will also play very well. Okay, as you can see, it's somehow starts to shine. It's not fully shiny at this stage, but if I will be adding now just a nacre, for example, you will see that the effect of light will be even more visible. So now it's just a nacre white, and it comes somewhere here. I will just do like that quickly and then fix it. And again, doing the lines, I'm trying to go into the direction of this small part of nacre paint. There is a scratch here which I need to paint like that, just to hide this, not to be too visible. Okay, and alright, so that's that part, and then I should be basically painting this from that side to the top, so in this way. So using the lines, I'm pulling the brush to the top using nacre paint. Okay, that's pretty much that side. I will just try to paint the border between the blade and the body of the axe, also with nacre here. I will fix it in a minute. Alright, so that's a little bit of, I would say, the result as after those layers. And the part that I should be fixing now is this one, because it's not painted at all, almost. So I will use now graphene gray with brown gray, and we'll try to fix this. Still, I want to have some part of the blade which will be very dark, because this is the only way that the contrast will be built. And again, to have a feel of reflection and nice non-metallic metal, you need to build strong contrast, so there has to be some places that are very dark. So I will be applying now coal black here using the lines, because it should build the contrast between the light, which is very close to it. And then I will be building this here, somewhere here, which is not natural for me to paint in that way, because I can't turn the miniature right now. But in general, that's the principle. So here there will come another dark place of a blade. Alright. Now I will try to use again a little bit of graphene gray with some brown gray to fix the top of the blade here. Now I will use just rainy gray. If it's wet, it should also make a nice transition. And then I can add also some nacre on the top, on the very top. And because the paint is wet, it should play well. Okay, I can use nacre also to make edges here. I just need to have more paint. No, when you do the edges, I think the brush should be a little bit, and the paint shouldn't be too wet, I mean too diluted. So let me just clean it, and then just, it's a simple technique. It just, you have to create an edge in this way, and you just put a side of the brush to the edge of the element that you're painting with this technique, and that's pretty much everything. And it's super simple, and it gives you the result. Alright, that still needs some of fixes here and there, because I'm not yet happy with the results, but I'm not sure if in this hobby you can be ever happy at the end of the day, but you need to find some compromise. So I will try to fix the top part of a blade, which is here, because right now there is too sharp transition, but I don't want to also lose the contrast, so I need to keep this part rather dark. Alright, and I will maybe try to do some lines here, going deeper to the color. Alright. What is also very nice, what you can play a bit, is you can use some green color. Here I have a green ink, whatever the company is, it doesn't matter. Or you can use just a very dark green color to build some additional reflection. So that's something that I will be trying to do in the midtones. So I will again do just, a couple of lines, sharp lines, going into the direction of a deep shade. So that's somewhere here, and I will leave this paint in the shade. And because that's an ink, typically the ink gives some reflection because it's very well diluted. And also try to use the effect of the lines. So in this way it has some additional reflection here, which creates something more interesting. So it's not just the pure colors that you were seeing. So if you use here blue, even yellow or green, or you can put maybe yellow here, it will have some additional reflections of something that happens around the miniature, and I think it's also eye-catchy. Okay, so that's pretty much, I would say, 60-70% of the blade that is done, but it shows you more or less in what direction I'm going. So just to compare with the painted miniature. So now you can see the final result, which is on the left, on the painted miniature, and the one that I was just showing you here. So it's more or less the same technique that I was using. It's just now the matter of final touches here and there to make it looks similar. What is missing here as a final remark is also the green reflection that is here, okay, so, which I applied already in that part. So it's just adding a little bit of green and then fixing and adding some, scratches. All right, thanks guys. So that's for the blade.